Going through a divorce in Florida or thinking about how to protect your family assets in the future, if you've inherited property like a house, money, or investments, you're probably wondering, can my spouse take part of that in the divorce? The answer is it depends. Let me explain. Hi, I'm Stephanie Cruz, an estate planning and family law attorney here in Florida. I help families and individuals protect their assets during life, after death, and yes, even through a divorce. Today I'm going to explain how Florida law treats inherited property during a divorce, when it's protected, and when you could accidentally lose that protection, and how you can plan ahead to keep your inheritance safe. The general rule in Florida: inherited property is separate property. When you inherit property under Florida law, whether before or during your marriage, it is generally considered separate, also called non-marital property. That means it's not automatically subject to division in a divorce. You should be able to keep it as your own without splitting it with your spouse. But, and this is important, that protection is not automatic forever. How inherited property can become marital property, that is where most people, and honestly many lawyers, make mistakes. Inherited property can lose its protection through something called commingling. Commingling happens when you mix your inherited property with your marital assets. Let me give you an example. You deposit inherited money into a joint bank account. You use inherited funds to pay for shared marital expenses, like the mortgage. You add your spouse's name to the deed of inherited real estate. Once again, the inheritance may be considered marital property, making it subject to equitable distribution in a Florida divorce. Let me give you another example. If you inherit $100,000 but deposit it into your joint checking account and use it to remodel the marital home, that money may now be considered a shared marital asset. How to keep inherited property protected. If you want to ensure that your inheritance stays protected, here's what I recommend. Keep it in a separate account, not joint with your spouse. Don't add your spouse to the deed or title of inherited property. Keep records of where the inheritance came from and how it was used. If using inherited funds for joint purposes, consider a postnuptial agreement or spelling out that the property remains separate. Here's a tip. Even if you trust your spouse completely, these steps are about protecting both of you from potential future disputes. What happens to appreciation or income from inherited property? Another common question that I get: if my inheritance grows in value during the marriage, is that increase protected too? In Florida, it depends. Passive appreciation, like market-driven increases in value, is usually still considered separate. But active appreciation is value that increases due to marital efforts or using marital funds, which may be considered marital property. For example, if you inherit a house and you and your spouse both invest time and money improving it, part of the increased value may be treated as a marital property. Planning ahead to avoid disputes. Divorce is usually very hard, but you don't want to add complicated financial battles to the stress. Here's how you can plan ahead. Have clear estate planning documents that spell out how your inheritance is handled. Consider a prenuptial or postnuptial agreement to define what's separate property. Keep good records of inherited property and avoid commingling whenever possible. And if you're receiving an inheritance now, talk to an attorney before making any big decisions with those assets. So, is inherited property protected in a Florida divorce? Yes, if you keep it separate and don't commingle it with marital assets. But once it's mixed, it can be very difficult and expensive to sort out. If this video helped you understand your rights, give it a thumbs up and leave a blue heart in the comments. And if you're dealing with an inheritance right now or going through a divorce and want to protect your property, send me a direct message.